Alright, so first I'm gonna show you a code you can put in. If you are on Uzmune, you can go to HUD memory S32 and put in this code, and this will show you your angle, your facing angle. So that'll be helpful for setting our angle here during SBLJ. If you don't have it, that's fine. I'm going to show a visual cue. And if you're on Japanese, there's another code which I'll include in the description. So what we're going to want to do is enter the room, come over to the stairs, position Mario with his foot entirely inside this tile floor step. The way to get him to do this shimmying is to just push the stick parallel to the wall that you're shimmying on and push it all the way out to the notch and then just let it go back to neutral. Just shimmy around like this. If you're on emulator and it's not doing this, you might need to adjust your stick sensitivity. Alright, so once we get here, we're going to go C down, and there's a few places to look. So first, we can look right here. You can see there's some of this white tile right here that we can see. When we rotate, that's going to go away, okay? Another place you can look is over here at this tile, or this brick, sorry. When we rotate, we're going to notice a certain amount of it is off the screen, and that'll tell us what angle we have. It's another cue. Another place you can look is right here. This brown square brick and this gray tile on the floor beneath it. Their right edges start off aligned almost perfectly when you go C down, but when you rotate to a new angle, you can see these are now misaligned. You can tell by looking at this corner. And you'll notice this facing angle, I was getting 16,201, but now I have 16,170. That's actually okay. You'll notice that this brick, this top this top right corner of the brick is about right at the edge of the screen. You'll notice that these 2 points are pretty close, and by these 2 points I mean there's this brown brick right here that I'm tracing the perimeter of, and then there's this top face that I'm tracing the perimeter of. These 2 corners are almost at the same spot. You can see they're not quite, and I've got the angle I want when looking at these things. And then here's a preloaded state I have, so you can see 16,201, same there, same there. It looks even a little bit wider if you just look at that cue. And then the last thing that you should probably pay attention to is how much of his leg is sticking out of the step. You don't want to have him look like this, you know. Too much of his leg sticking out of the step, not good. Alright, so we're going to stay here, and I have 16,201 selected as well as 16,160, because what happens when I turn around is I get 48,928 with either one of those. So I'm going to turn around with 16,201, 48,928. So that's about the range you want to be in. And those are some good visual cues to look for to tell if you have the right angle. And as long as you're within that range, or at least very close to it, you should have around 48,928 when you turn around. That's what you're looking for. So the reason that we want that angle too is because if we do an angle that's too small, like say this angle, what's going to happen is when we go to land, we're going to have to put our stick between up and up left, which you could have seen right here. just to get him to actually land. If I go to up left with an angle that's too small, he's gonna most likely do that. What's happening there is we jump once, we land here where he's standing right now, and we jump up onto the tile floor. And because we're angling ourselves to the right here, we're going to slide back off the tile floor and back onto the step we're currently standing on. And at that point we can jump again. But if we jump while he's still on the tile floor, we're going to just end the SBLJ, and he's just going to fly off to the side. So if your stick angle is too far to the left, based on whatever facing angle you gave him, you're not going to slide back off the tile fast enough to actually get the next jump. There's only a 5-frame window. So too small of a facing angle is going to just make things harder. You could play with it if you want, and you know, if you get a smaller facing angle, maybe you're in a hurry, go for it anyway. But I would recommend this range of facing angles, or you know, whatever's close enough that you're getting on your controller. Alright, so now we're going to talk about actually performing the SBLJ. So when we land, we're going to land in up left, and we're going to start off the mash kind of slow. We're going to speed it up. And what we're also going to do is we're going to go more left later in the mash. And that'll help us get an extra jump in. And then at the end of the mash, we're going to go to up notch. But the thing is that if you're aiming for up notch, there's such a small time frame, you're probably going to just end up in up left again. And then you're going to fly into the fence, because, you know, you're jumping and you're directing the stick this way. The fence is right there. So you want to at least be an up so that he goes this way. But what I tend to recommend is aim for upright, because you're probably going to want to push upright anyway when you get to the wall to avoid the pillar. And you should get an AirBLJ, or an SBLJ that looks something like that. Now you could start off the mash faster. You don't have to start it slow. For me, I just find it more consistent to get high speeds if I start the mash kind of slow. Oh, goodness. Because usually what'll happen for me is I'll only end up with, you know, around that much speed, or maybe even less. Makes it hard to get that last SBLJ for me. That puts us at the 200 range. Alright, so what we're going to do now is take a look at the AirBLJs. And I will say, that SBLJ is pretty challenging, so be patient with yourself while you're trying to learn it. But I also wanted to emphasize that the speed that I was getting at the wall was usually around 140 if I mashed fast at the start. Or 200 if I mashed slow at the start. Oops. Well, I didn't get my jump. Actually, am I getting all my jumps? What is going on with that? Anyway, let's move on to the AirBLJs. So, I'm gonna keep this on 5. Oh, well actually, let's go back to the SBLJ. So if we set a wide facing angle, right? We talked about the ideal one and a small one. Now we're going to set a wider one. So if we set a wider facing angle, it's going to make it a lot harder to build speed. Because as we get faster, there's a larger component of our speed that's pointed towards the door. So the more we're angled towards the door, the greater that component is going to be for that reason. Not just because we're faster. So if our face angle is too wide, we're going to have to hold more left to keep him from entering the door early. But the more left we hold, the more speed we're going to lose in between AirBLJs. So you don't want to set too wide of a facing angle on the SBLJ if you actually want to build speed. And for this DDD skip, you're going to want to be able to build as much speed as you can. Alright. So the first thing I'm going to show you is what you might want out of this, which is 2 AirBLJs. And you could, technically, you can get the speed. The problem is, maybe you're a little faster than this, you might overspeed. Or maybe you don't press A on the right frames and you are underspeed. Because we want to see around 380 after our last jump. So, let's see. So we have 390 there. So that's good. That's what we want. But if I'm slow with it, I only have 352. Let's see. So it's kind of dangerous, which flies in the face of this not being a complete YOLO, to just do 2. So I'm going to show you what I think works better is 3 AirBLJs. So I'll show you with 2 different save states. So this one hits the wall with about 200 speed. So specifically, I'm not just going to blindly do 3. If I do that, I am going to overspeed. Maybe I do late frames, and I get it. But the thing is, you know, that's going to depend, is my speed low enough for that to work? What I find is a lot better is hit the wall, AirBLJ once, and then go to down left for a sec. See this motion? And what am I doing with my stick before that? I'm keeping it as close to up as I possibly can, while keeping Mario on this tile. And I'm kind of keeping that white line that you can see kind of bisecting him between his legs there. I'm trying to keep him pretty much right here. I don't want to touch the pillar because the pillar is going to push me around and it's just going to overcomplicate things. Plus I'm losing a lot of speed by pulling him that hard to the left. You can see my speed is dropping pretty significantly in between jumps. And this is the other thing, the pillar pushes you over to the side really far. You don't want to start your AirBLJs, you don't want to do them too far over, because once you jump here, to pull him back over, you have to hold a lot more strongly to the left. So you want to try to start your AirBLJs over here and keep doing them over here. So we're going to jump once, pull down, and go back to as close to up as we can be, and pull down again, and jump a third time. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was not good speed. There you go. What you might end up doing is not even pulling down a second time if he's slow enough, which is sort of what's going on here. So we can just pull down once, and we can feel how strongly he's getting pulled based on, you know, how much of a left input we need to do on the stick. And so that'll allow us to decide, do we want to pull down again, or do we just want to hold a little bit more left and do a late frame? You can do that. The only thing I'll say if you're going to just do a late frame is, let's see. Oops. Well, beware of that. You don't want to lose all your speed because you completely missed the window to do the AirBLJ. But you don't want something like that happening, where you're too late and he just slides in. So this one's good for one pull down and then late frame. I'm not really paying super close attention to what he needs to be doing. Okay, so that was too fast there. You can see I was focusing, I wasn't even looking at him, I was focusing on the tile and keeping his shadow in that pretty much where I said it needs to be. You see, we're a bit slower than we should be. Oh. Okay. That actually worked a lot better. So what I'm doing is, late frames, and then keeping him over for that last jump. What I recommend most of all is to... Did I really? Okay, wait, that's okay. I have a... save state. Okay. What I recommend most of all for AirBLJs is to mess around with them and see what works, because this is all pretty new. The goal is to get as much speed as you possibly can without overspeeding. And I will just advise a few things. Again, don't try to not hit the pillar because it'll push you over. I personally don't like the idea of getting a lot of speed and then pulling down for the final one for a long time, because the speed loss you have holding the stick up is pretty slow, but when it's closer to down, that speed loss is pretty rapid. You can see there. So, I would recommend losing speed in small increments when you're slower. So here we have a slightly faster SBLJ. So I'm gonna pull down. Pull down. Oops. Well, that was... Pull down. Pull down. Maybe about 385. Okay, the only other thing I wanted to say about AirBLJs was if we have a slow SBLJ, so like we missed a jump on the stairs, we exited a jump early, we're gonna have around this much speed, around 140. So here, you're gonna want to do early frames at first, but as you get faster, you're gonna start to feel him pulled over. Oh, this is really not good. Okay, I mean, I guess the better thing to talk about is this is why you don't want to have such low speed when you hit the wall, because the more AirBLJs you have to do, the more uncertain you're going to be about what your speed is, and the harder you're going to make it on yourself. Like, here I can see my speed, so it's like, yeah, I know what to do, but you're not going to have that luxury when you're in a run. So if you're needing to do, like, 5 AirBLJs... Watch, I'm not looking at my speed here, and I'm guessing I'm pretty fast. Oops. Okay, I'm just gonna... Here, we'll do it this way. We'll just turn the speed off, and I'll do these AirBLJs just based on feel. Okay, I overspeeded. Okay, he seems really slow. He's fairly slow. That's a bit slow for what we want. I wouldn't recommend it. What we can do, though, is, oops. Yeah, okay. Let's get a... What we can do is get a slower SBLJ. Not as slow as that one. I mean, one thing you could consider is not getting to the speed, or not getting to the door with such low speed. To the wall with such low speed. But if you do, so that's what we're looking at here. So we did an AirBLJ, so I'm gonna do another one. So we just did 4 early frames. Or at least 3 early frames. I wasn't really paying attention on the first one. And we got the speed we want. Is that always going to work? No. Sometimes you're going to overspeed. So again, you're going to have to pay attention to, you know, what is he doing? How do I need to adjust? And the more AirBLJs you are needing to pay attention to, the greater the possibility for error you're going to introduce. So just really try to get to the wall with as much speed as you can. But keep in mind, you can pay attention to how much he's getting pulled towards the door. Not as like it doesn't matter what speed I got. It's like he's getting pulled towards the door. I just know based on that. You don't want to give yourself too much leeway, because you might say, oh, it feels like he's getting pulled towards the door the amount he would with max speed, and you find out you have like 350 speed as opposed to almost 380, or at 380 is around where you should be, at least. If you're doing less AirBLJs, you can be more sure that you're still within that range. But the more AirBLJs you're doing, the more potential late frames you've done, or mid frames, and you've completely messed it up. So yeah, anyway, let's talk about this new launch now. So I have my vertical speed on right here, and if we divide this number by 2, it'll tell us the number of frames to the peak of our jump. So we're 8 frames away right now. So what I recommend is not letting him go over to this vertical line that you can see in the brick texture, the wall texture, these like white lines between the bricks. Once Mario's center arrives at that white line, there's a hitbox that's going to push him over above the door. Okay, I can actually show this. Let me... Here. Alright, so we have a program open called Stroop, which is going to show us Mario's quarter steps. And so you can see, based on what stick angle I hold, we're going to space those out a bit more. Here, actually, I'm going to do it this way. So I have Stroop larger now, just so we can more easily see what's happening. So if we get up to speed, which I do have a save state, or I should have a save state that has speed. Yes, here it is. We can see what happens. So first, I'm going to show you the old launch, what was happening. So once we, whoops, here, let's do it frame by frame. So once we get to that white line, Mario is going to enter this triangle-shaped hitbox on that first quarter frame. This hitbox is an overlapping region between this hitbox, which is a slanted wall inside the hallway, and this hitbox, which is the wall we're AirBLJing against. And the combination of these two hitboxes sends Mario to this region right here. And from there, interactions with the door and I guess this is like the door frame hitboxes will carry out the rest of his motion on that frame. But let me show you. So now we have this save state, and so we can sort of look at what could potentially happen during this old launch. So there's this position Mario could find himself at. It's one of the quarter step locations. He's going to go to one of these quarter step locations. So this is up against the door. This is inside the door. Let's see if we can... Yeah, and then there's back here, which I guess is like right behind the door. The door is actually right here. So this position is sort of like flush with the wall here. Not quite, but it's pretty close. But either way, you can see I could have ended here, I could have ended here, I could have ended here, I could have ended there. Like, there's a lot of options for where I could be based on my position and my stick angle. That'll put me at a completely different location. And that's a lot of displacement that we either have or don't have towards DDD. So this element of the old launch is the reason that it was so seemingly random, because this is pretty much impossible to control. So if there's a way to control what quarter step we enter on, then there's a way to hopefully do ultimate more consistently. So that's where this new launch comes in. So this new launch this new launch was found by Phoenix AUS. I'll link him in the description. What he found was that it's possible to go above the door like this and hold left, and you launch that way. And so we had known about this for over a year at this point, but the fact that this was the launch to focus on only became clear very recently. The reason that this one's so important is because this one does allow you to control the quarter step you will enter on. You'll always enter the hallway having moved 3 quarter steps from your current location. So let me show you what happens in this launch and how to do it. So we're going to enter that triangle hitbox from the old launch again, except now we're doing it near the peak of our jump. So we don't want to do it too early. If we do it too early, we risk doing this. Whoops. Just entering the hallway and having no speed. So we want to wait. We want to be safe. And do it when you're around here. So you can take a good look at Mario. So you can take a good look at his position. There's some things to note, like he's facing forward, as opposed to looking slightly upward. The top of his hat is like at this horizontal white line, in the wall texture. I could show you just before, you know, he's angled slightly upward, very slightly. But when he's angled more downward or forward, that's when you'd want to let him go over into that triangle hitbox. And I can show that again. I can go back to... What? Okay. Looking at Stroop. So here I'm gonna let him enter. You can see once he enters, I'm gonna push him over. And it doesn't really matter what quarter step we enter on here, we're just gonna get pushed over above the door. And that's all we want. We just want to get pushed over. Now, once we do get pushed over, oops, and we're up here, we're gonna want to start holding left to actually get this launch to happen. If I hold up left, see, he drifts over and he just clips. I have to hold pretty close to left notch. See, I'm not quite holding left notch, but very close to it to get him to go over far enough. So why is this? What do we need to have happen here to get this launch to work? So you can see, oops. You can see where he is right now. As we move over to the left, so first we try to move into this hitbox, which is a combination of, it's an overlapping region between this hitbox and this hitbox. So the game is going to send us here. The game's going to try to put us here. It says, no, you can't be there. Go here. It's going to say, actually, no, go back. And then we're going to move forward from there and go here. Move forward from there and go here. So in essence, we're moving forward 3/4 steps. We lose this one. You can see after the second, we end up at this exact same point in the X direction. So it's pretty much just 1, 2, 3. Because this one moves here, but then it goes back to where it already was. So 1, 2, 3. So, and that's always going to happen with this launch. That's what's so special about it. We're always going to move these 3/4 steps forward. Now, we need to get here before it'll happen. And if we're too slow, if we don't hold left enough, that's not going to happen. So you can see here I'm not going to hold far enough left. You can see at this point we are not in this region, we're here. And so the next frame, he does this path instead and loses all his speed. Now there is this little sliver right here, which he does have the possibility of entering. So it's like a sort of a pseudo launch. Let's see if I can show that. Oh, he didn't. Okay. I am not entirely sure why he does sometimes and why he doesn't. This specific launch is also a bit confusing to me. Let me see if I can show. If we go into a 3D view, we add ceiling triangle. You see there's this ceiling hitbox that we seem to be avoiding by going far enough to the left. So I guess that is part of what's happening. I don't really know what that is. I'm not 100% certain why this happens the way it does. What I know is that it happens the way it does. And the other thing that's really special about it is that not only does it control the quarter step we enter on, it also controls the height we enter on. So we're always going to enter 3 frames above the ground, right here. And that's because the vertical displacement when we're doing a BLJ against this wall is always exactly the same. And we can take a look at that if we put this code in. Here, I'm gonna just, let's see. Okay, if we put this code in, oops. Oh, let's be a 0. This one shows us our vertical position. You can see it doesn't change no matter what direction we're moving on the ground. During AirBLJs, there are only specific numbers that value can take on. So we're always going to do this launch exactly the same way because we're falling into the position we need to be in. And falling is always the same. Versus the normal launch, we are translating sideways, and that's going to depend on the exact speed we have and the exact quarter frame, and the exact position that we move over from. Now, the big things to be aware of with this launch are, 1, you need to make sure you start moving left pretty much immediately when you clip over above the door. If I wait too long, like if I wait until here, it's completely dead. I can hold left notch, it's not happening. And the other thing is that because you have to hold left notch, you're going to be losing a bit more speed on your way down than you would have from the usual method of doing ultimate. So you want to make sure your speed is high enough, because if your speed is below 342, the frame before this one, the frame you clip through the door, you're not going to keep your speed. You're going to lose all of it. So something you could do is you could hold slightly above left, like here, and you'll keep a little bit more speed, but you go over to the left more slowly, so it's a trade-off, you know. Do you want to risk not being far enough left? Do you want to risk not being fast enough? You gotta decide. Again, best thing, try to figure out best ways to max out your speed. Play around with the AirBLJ strategies. Use fast SBLJs. And then guiding him to this point too in a way that keeps as much speed as possible. Like, try to keep the stick as close to up as you can on your way up to this point. And only when you're up here do you start holding around up left and letting, but don't hold up here, because if you hold up, he's gonna shift over to the right too far. You don't want to do that. Yeah, see, I still got the launch there, but it's a dangerous game. Just be very careful. Gotta get far enough left. Gotta have the speed. And you don't need to pause to do this. I want to show here, this save state I have set. I have my speed. It's possible to guide him into position and get the launch, as you can see there. Now, is this super easy? No, not at all. But it is indeed possible. There's no requirement. Like, the pause isn't actually doing anything. And maybe you find, you know, jump from this specific point and start holding up left at this specific point, you guide him into that spot perfectly. I would not be surprised that there's more normalized stick movement you could come up with for the AirBLJ. What speed range are we in? But I just want to emphasize that because it seems people are under the impression that the pauses are part of the strat. They're not. They are just a crutch for us to use right now because this is new. All right, and finally, we'll talk about the Hall BLJ. The Hall BLJ, the ultimate BLJ, the ultimate AirBLJ, the Hall AirBLJ, the ultimate Hall AirBLJ, whatever you want to call this thing. The final BLJ you do in the hallway, which I always just call the Hall BLJ. We have now, since everything is normalized about that launch, that we would need to be normalized. The height we enter, we're always going to move back into the hall the same amount. The quarter frame we enter on, we're always going to be in roughly the same speed range. So, well, I guess on that point we'll come back to. The other things we can normalize are the stick inputs, what frame we jump on, and to know what frame we should jump on with what stick input, what speed range we should be in, we can take a look at this table. So let me show this. So here we have the stick angle, the frame that we perform the Hall BLJ on, and the speed that we should have the frame we click to the door. So to make that more clear, it's this frame. So whatever speed you have on this frame. So that's what we're looking at here. That's what these speed ranges are. I do want to emphasize most of these speed ranges are completely pointless because we're going to be holding left. We're going to be losing a lot of speed. Something like this, 370 to 386. I will be very surprised if somebody ever does that. I personally find it unlikely for anybody to get above 368. That seems like it should be around the maximum speed you ever clip on, so like 380, completely pointless. Something to note about these ranges is I did not go through and do all of these. I derived all of these, and I feel like that's worth noting because there's an uncertainty here, maybe 1 or 2 speed values off the values you see, especially at the boundary of a range. Like I took this one as an example. It says it goes to 350, but it's specifically 350.04, which means that if you see 350, it's plausible that you're not going to actually get it because you need to be almost exactly at 350 to get it. If you're at 350.1, then he's probably not going to skip. And so that goes for, all these. Try to choose a strat that has the speed you're usually getting closer to the middle of the range. Not to say like, oh, these are just way off. It's pretty much accurate. The ones I've checked are good. But, you could have very slight, you could have a little bit of a remainder like this on your speed, and then it adds up over the course of the few frames in the hall, and you end up not skipping because of that. And I also want to note, like, some of these are just completely impossible. Like 380 to 401, you can't even get 401. That's just not possible. I put these here for completeness, all of these, but most of these you're never going to use, which is why, 342 to 350 down notch. It's one of my preferred ones because you're usually going to have a lower speed. And I find it easier to aim to do a firsty than to do like a second frame. Third frame is bad, no matter what stick angle you're holding, it seems, so I wouldn't even worry about that. It seems fourth frame is good pretty much always, except neutral, its range is 2 values. And the other thing with fourth frame, which I'll show here, is that you can do this. If we're left notch, yeah. We do left notch in this, we're at the right speed value. So here's where the first frame is. Second, third, we're going to do a fourth right here. Gonna let go of Z. Right here, we're going to press it again. Oh, how embarrassing. Yeah, let's do that again. So here's where the first frame is. And 2, 3, 4. We're going to jump. We're going to skip. And then right here, we're going to press Z. Oh, I'm surprised. That might be... Huh. There might be a smaller speed range that actually gets the ground pound into Fire C than the actual range that gets the skip, which would be interesting to consider. But I'll show you can indeed get a ground pound into Fire C. Here's the first instance of that being done, not from a save state, by tag 609. I'll include a link to this tweet in the description. So that is pretty cool, which is another big appeal for this launch. It puts us high enough to where we can go far enough back in the hall to actually get that. He did a different SBLJ than what I showed, and that's fine, it seems. I haven't played around with it a lot, but you know, don't be afraid to try to use your own SBLJ for this as well. And I think the last thing, I guess I didn't say it explicitly, but you're only going to want to look at a few hall strats, like, you know, maybe this one down fourth frame for 349 to 357. That's pretty solid range. Down first frame 342 to 350. Again, a good solid slow range. Down left has pretty much the same ranges there. Neutral fifth frame 348 to 360. It's pretty good range for mid to higher speeds. Left notch, you don't have to move the stick, so you can go 345 to 353. I don't see getting above 360 frequently to be likely at all. Be a pretty rare occurrence, it seems. But this aspect of this, you know, what hall BLJ strategy should you use? I think that'll just have to be something you decide which ones you want to go for or which one you want to go for based on what speeds you're usually getting. I will note, though, I recalculated these, assuming that you wait until you hit the ground before you adjust your stick input. Neutral and left don't change, but up, left, and down do. And pretty much all they do is slightly alter the ranges for left notch. That's... yeah. You don't want to be moving the stick late, unless you're planning to pretty much do left anyway. Which maybe is a good idea. Like you have to have pretty low speed. I also wanted to add one more thing just at the very end here. I could do another video where I go in depth on all these technical details, but this was what was used to derive the ranges. And here's from the Super Mario 64 speedrun server, the gameplay help. I gave a quick rundown of the ultimate theory, I guess you could call it. But yeah, if you want to see a video on that, I'd probably like to do one anyway. But I wanted to include that in this video just to have it all in one video. Anyway, that is it. Good luck in Fire Sea once you do your DD skips. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any great ideas, let me know. And yeah, good luck. Have fun with it.